welcome back. Hello, testing. Hi. Take two. Hi, welcome back. I'd like to introduce our next speaker. She is the CEO of Bantam Tools, which was formerly known as Other Machine Company, maker of the awesome prototyping tool we all know of, the Other Mill. Other Machine was recently acquired by former MakerBot CEO and co-founder Bree Pettis. Danielle has a degree in chemical engineering from MIT and a PhD in materials science and engineering from UT Austin. Please give a warm welcome to the Hackaday Superconference stage, Dr. Danielle Applestone.
Hello, everybody. I was here a couple years ago. It's really awesome to be back here again because it means my company didn't die in hardware. I've been running a hardware business for the past 5 years. As she mentioned, it has a new owner now, which is good for R&D. And if you're like me, you think about how your work and what you do every day fits in with the rest of the world and what's going on and how maybe the things that you do might benefit society. I think about that all the time. I hope you think about that too. And judging some of the Hackaday prize entries, I know that there's a lot of people thinking about how to improve the situation for others. So this talk is about how I think the hacker community and maker community and R&D focused community can help us build the workforce of 2030. We're in this strange paradox at the moment where a lot of the country feels like this. They feel like they read articles about automation and there's a pressure of, I had this job, I maybe have been working in it in 10 years, and it's going to go away sometime soon. And there's a lot of tension around that. But the paradox comes in that actually with the baby boomer retirement, a lot of folks in manufacturing are retiring, and automation is eliminating the lower skilled jobs and creating millions of jobs that are slightly higher in skill level. So this fact that I present up here, it came from a Deloitte study. It's 2 million, the net job change from automation over the next 10 years is actually that there will be 2 million unfilled jobs, that we won't have enough people with enough skill to take these jobs. And part of why this happened was because we got rid of shop class, and there wasn't a path into using your hands, and building and manufacturing fell out of favor. And I got involved in my company to build desktop-sized robots for milling and cutting, and really they're just small-scale manufacturing robots. And part of the reason was, well, let's refocus our efforts on shop class. But I think we have to do more than just that. So here's the state of manufacturing. I was really surprised to discover these facts when I started digging, that US manufacturing is still the largest in the world, that it's 12% of our GDP is manufacturing, 9% of everybody with a job in this country is in manufacturing. And the weirdest part is that there's already over 500,000 unfilled manufacturing jobs all across the country, and they pay really well. So it doesn't make sense to me. This thing doesn't add up, because I have a lot of friends who are struggling in kind of service industry jobs, and they're trying to figure out, how do I get these manufacturing jobs? How do I step into these open positions and actually get the skills that I need? So I face this problem as an employer, and we manufacture our hardware. It's if you know what a CNC machine is, if you don't, you should look it up. They're great. So it's a 17-pound, high-precision, super reliable CNC machine. A lot of people use it for prototyping aluminum and electronics. We assemble that machine in Berkeley. We use components that are manufactured, most of them, 80%, manufactured in the United States. And if you're in the Bay Area, don't think about that as a manufacturing job type of place. And in fact, there were not a lot of people around us that were trained to do manufacturing jobs. And when I think about the big picture of 2 million jobs over 10 years, and then translate that to a very small scale of like, what did we experience as a company when we were trying to hire manufacturers? And we only had to hire a couple dozen to do manufacturing. There was only one thing that worked for us. And oh, by the way, this is the mill that we make. We used to be called the Other Machine Company with the other mill. We changed it to Bantam Tools because, well, this name I got to choose. And this was small, powerful machines. And the Bantam is a small, powerful rooster. So it made a lot of sense to me. PCB Prototyping aluminum parts, yes. So this is how we did it. We hired people who were traditionally non-technical people, but who were scrappy enough to go get themselves some technical skills. This is Emily. She's our product manager. She was an acupuncturist, but went to Tech Shop and took every class at Tech Shop, and then heard about our company and decided, hey, you know what? I think I might be able to do that. And she started assembling machines with us. So, not a traditional technical person, getting her own kind of exposure to these skills, and then coming to us, and she's been really incredible. This is Owen, kind of the same story. He went to school for videography, but he found Adafruit online, started doing tinkering. He wanted to be an inventor. He started looking at Instructables and just putting things together. And it was the same type of thing, like a person who would not be a traditional manufacturer getting exposure on their own time, and building themselves up as a technical person who could help out in manufacturing and quality control. Same thing happened with Beth, who was an architect who had ran a Kickstarter campaign and realized, wow, I made this one thing. Maybe I could make many of these. Maybe I'll get into manufacturing. And she joined our team. I could go on and on. This is Devin. He worked at Home Depot. Same thing, learning electronics. He got into IT and decided, I want to build things with my hands. I'm tired of my job where I don't get to build things. And this is Amber. She worked at the zoo. She was really into spreadsheets. She thought maybe she would be good at quality control, and she joined our team as well. And when I thought about how do we solve this bigger problem with manufacturing and all these unfilled jobs when we have all of these really capable people, I just turned inward and I thought, okay, maybe the key is let's get a lot more people who are not traditional people exposed to robots and manufacturing, because really, robots are the future of manufacturing. I think that's pretty much inevitable, but everyday people don't have a lot of exposure to robots. So this is the challenge. And because I'm an operator and I like running businesses, I think about what is the way that I could possibly solve that, and I thought, 10 years, 2 million jobs, that's roughly 200,000 jobs a year, 200,000 people that I need to place in jobs a year over the next decade. Well, how do I even get people who don't know they're interested in manufacturing even to the door of the place to apply for a manufacturing job? And I thought about libraries. Part of the reason is a lot of the places that use our machine, because it's small and can go anywhere, they'll use it in a library. And so the challenge really that I'm kind of putting forth, and I'm going around the country a lot talking about this in all kinds of places, is if all you did was have 1,000 libraries that exposed 200 people a year for the next decade to these technical skills and like robots and making and cutting and soldering and things like that, there would be so much more people that would even be aware that they could have a technical job. And I think there's probably a lot of people in the room, I don't know everybody here, but there's a lot of people that I do know that taught themselves things on their own. And I really think that if you put a makerspace in a library, you can't really expect just library staff to do it. I think it's up to all of us to volunteer in our communities and be more involved and get people more excited about technical skills. And so that's the challenge that I'm personally taking up. And looking for people, of course, to join me. This is my mantra. So I don't have a lot of proof that this works. There's one library that I've been following pretty closely in Chicago, the Chicago Public Library System. I've trained thousands of people a year to use 3D printers and laser cutters and everything, and it's really the most basic stuff, just hand skills. And the goal isn't to train someone to be a robot operator at a factory before they ever get there. It's just to get people inspired to take on these super high-paying jobs that have a future and are probably in a field that they have never even considered before. And so my approach is give everyone robots, whether it's Girl Scouts or engineers in schools or whatever. This is the kind of effect that we're already seeing for when we put these robots. People don't even know that they're robots. It could be a 2D shape cutter. But the idea is to try to lower the barrier and really increase access, because the fact is, if you don't look like the people who are in the shop, you won't ever go into the shop. And I fit in just fine in a hackerspace. I wear this dress, and everybody's like, of course she belongs here, no big deal. But that's a privilege that I have, and not everybody has that. And so this is really why I'm advocating for widespread exposure to robots in libraries. And you might think that that this is kind of like a fringy idea, but in fact, this is the whole reason that I started this company in the first place. We were tasked by DARPA on a government grant to build small-scale manufacturing robots that could go into classrooms, that could go into libraries, because they saw, and it was actually a study, there was a study about what is the biggest threat to national security in the next 20 years. It's just not having enough technical people, not having enough people to operate the infrastructure for the company, or for the country. And so they tasked us with developing these tools. One we developed was a reciprocating X-Acto knife blade for cutting cardboard because that was cheap. One was a milling machine. And this came from some very forward-thinking people in government. What happened is eventually we ended up just taking those prototypes and forming a company. But I think we now have all the elements that we need. We have to create a space where people can get access. Anybody can get access, and public libraries are a great place for that. The cost of the machines is pretty low. The cost of materials is pretty low. And what I see is there's this key part that's been missing from the maker movement. If I have one judgment on the maker movement, it's that there wasn't a light shining that we're all pointing towards. And for me, that light is getting non-technical people to learn technical skills and actually open doors for themselves and the people around them in terms of employment. So that's the purpose part that I think is coming into, there's a lot of momentum around it. Even, I think it was last month, Google pledged $1 billion towards educating people into tech fields. I think that a lot of people are now taking notice, but it's really up to folks like us on the ground to make moves. And we will be the people who are actually introducing a lot of people to their first soldering job and their first robot and their first 2D shape cutter, Cricut, or whatever it is. And now is a great time to do it. Like I said, the hardware is cheap, the software is cheap or free, and now more space is becoming available. I went to Indiana and North Carolina and in the Bay Area and here, and talking about the same thing. What I see now, as opposed to 5 years ago, is people are understanding that this is important, and schools, traditional schools, are not going to be able to keep up with this demand for workers. So they're thinking about alternatives. I'm thinking about alternatives, which is let's put inexpensive hardware and software, use inexpensive software, and allocate space towards this because it's actually really important for our future. And this is the thing that was the most surprising that I found through all of my research, which is it's actually an investment in our economy, our future, the future of this country. And actually, I'm not particularly like made in America focused. I'm more like make it locally. Like wherever you are, if you can have more things made where you are, that's better. It doesn't matter to me where it is. But there's this factor, which is if you invest in this and you invest in creating this workforce and you invest in creating facilities, you actually get more than you put in, which is really important. So what you can do as you can contact me and say, hey, I want to get involved. Connect me with a library that's psyched to do this work, or how do I participate? What is like the right content that I need to put out there? There's virtually nothing that's being done to answer that one specific question, which is, how do we take what we know about making and exposing people to these skills and getting them a job, or getting them like to even think that they could have a job? That's the missing link. And so if you have ideas about that, you should share them with me. Stories, share them with me. It's really important to elevate the stories of success and to find out what patterns there might be. And I'm really interested in what is the answer, what is the key to taking all the things that we do in hacking and making and fabricating and prototyping and having it translate for a lot of people into a new future for themselves and their family, to be quite honest. So you can email me. I'll put you in contact with people. These are some references that I talked about, the manufacturing, all the manufacturing stats, and the study. You can read a ton about it. I had no idea, in fact, how important manufacturing was to what we do in the United States. And to put the perspective of 2 million unfilled manufacturing jobs, or to put some perspective around 2 million unfilled manufacturing jobs, that's as if you took all of the manufacturing jobs in California and all of the manufacturing jobs in Texas, which are the top 2 states for manufacturing, and you just stopped. You just left them unfilled. And if you go to Indiana and you talk to the factory managers like I have, you'll see that this is already a problem. It's already 500,000 and it's only growing. So, time to get to work, everybody. And feel free to reach out to me and share your ideas. I think this is a really important problem to work on. I think that people who are non-traditional explorers of technology like we are well positioned to address it. Thanks.